Hi everyone, and welcome back to Project No Buy. Today's video is going to focus on makeup and beauty and how I recently realized that buying makeup means that you have to actually use makeup. So this video is going to be kind of a deeper dive into the realizations that I had recently that are very much stating the obvious, but at the same time I didn't really understand them until more recently. And I developed a new approach to purchasing makeup. And this approach leaves no exceptions for birthdays and holidays. No exceptions for backup products either. It feels like I'm having a little bit of a life overhaul at the moment, and so this is kind of going to be a March series. So I'm going to be filming a few of these talks, these chats, kind of both examining my relationship towards the products I have, so makeup, clothing, books, etc., and also why I want what I want, or why I used to want products in these categories. It's going to be almost a series of things I would regret buying, or kind of de-influencing myself as far as what I used to want. And so I'm going to be filming a few of these today, so you might actually see the same uniform for a few videos. You can let me know how that feels. I will also see how that feels as I edit and put out multiple videos wearing the same thing. But yeah, the next few videos will be covering different subjects, and this first one is focused on makeup and beauty. So I've kind of been doing inventory of all of the things that I have and use, makeup, clothing, etc., relative to how much I actually use these things. And reflecting on the fun of purchasing and looking at these things that I maybe don't have, looking at things that I could want, versus actually using what I have and the joy I get out of having certain things. So buying and curating versus utility, in other words. This was all kind of sparked by seeing some creators' empties videos, right? At the beginning of the year, a lot of people online will do empties videos. I did one too, and this kind of shows, in a way, how much product, how many beauty products people out there are getting through in a typical year. And I do watch a mix of, well, mostly I only watch conscious creators now, people who create geared towards conscious consumerism, but I did, or I have in the past, if not this year, I've seen empties videos where it's been great swaths of plastic, basically, because people are going through a bunch of makeup and beauty products, essentially. And so it got me thinking, it got me reflecting. And I realized, and again, you know, this is all the obvious, right? This is not anything new. It's not any Isaac Newton moments of whatever, the apples hitting me on the head. But I realized that my use of products is very low compared to anything I've seen online. Conscious creators or not, right? Like, I don't know if it was because I was brought up with extreme frugality in mind, you know, with my own parents kind of emphasizing not wasting anything. But I go through products very slowly, and some of the products that I go through, I don't use every day. I don't use regularly. I have to kind of remind myself to use them. And so what that made me realize is that there's probably a lot of products that I use not because I actually need them, but because I thought I should for whatever reason. And prior to consuming online influencing content, it would be moments at school, you know, moments in the gym class locker room where I would see all these girls using a certain body spray or something, and I would feel like I needed one too, even if just deodorant would have been just fine. Or I would see girls talking about using shave gel for their legs or whatever, and suddenly, not only did I feel like I then had to start shaving, but then I felt like I had to start using a product to shave with, you know, like soap wasn't good enough. I had to have the shave gel too, because that was apparently what was done. And I think it might have been exacerbated by the fact that I was one of the only kind of minority people, non-white people in my school. And so if I didn't do what all of them were doing, I was going to be even more different. And so the safest thing to do was to just do whatever everyone else was doing in that environment. And so if they used shave gel, then I should use shave gel too. Now, I haven't used the shaving product for a long time, and I actually haven't shaved in a long time. So, you know, luckily you can't. I mean, I shouldn't apologize for that, actually. Like, here, look at the hairy legs, you know? It doesn't really matter whether or not I have hair on my body or not. And I want to get out of that knee-jerk reaction of feeling like I should apologize for having natural hair growth on my body. So I take it back. I'm not sorry. But there you go, you know, that's just a symbol of how brainwashed I am in terms of conforming to societal norms or what other people kind of project onto others and the judgments that we feel like we might be getting based on what people say or people do. Or, you know, again, the experience comes to mind in my middle school German class where two boys were saying that there's no such thing as a hot Asian. And so, you know, what am I supposed to do about that judgment? Because I can't change my ethnicity to be hot for these boys or whatever. Not that I cared in particular to be attractive to those people, but if some people think that, then maybe other people think that too, was kind of my middle school mentality. And it really just makes you feel not secure, I guess. If there's something about yourself that you cannot change, that makes you less appealing to people. And so no wonder I fell deep into the hole of influence. And then later in my adult life, when online influencing became so prevalent, no wonder I fell into it as an adult as well. So anyway, I've seen empties videos this year, last year, and beyond, and realized that it's not about me comparing myself to them as other people. I was comparing myself in terms of consuming products, in terms of what I should be using, to the consumption of others and not on my own needs, if that makes sense. So basically, based on my own empties of, let's just say last year, where I had just a small handful of things that I used up, my purchasing of makeup and beauty should be comparatively small, right? It should be in line with the empties that I had. I should not be not having empties because I have so many options that I can't use things up in the time period that they're designed to be used, right? A lot of these things have yearly expiry deadlines, right? It'll be 12 months or 18 months or 24 months or something. And if I'm not able to use up a product in that period of time, I probably shouldn't be buying it in the first place. So basically, because my empties are a small collection, therefore, my purchases also need to be a small collection so that it's all kind of balanced out. And that's, you know, the answer is not to use my products more or to project pan more aggressively, although that can still be a helpful tool even for people like me to determine what is actually getting used. But the answer is to make my consumption, my purchasing, match what I actually use. Hence the title of this video where, you know, the fact that you buy makeup means that you then have to use it, right? Like, that's not a revolutionary idea or concept, but it wasn't something that I had thought of in the same way, right? Somehow I had separated the act of curating and buying and looking and wanting from the act of using. And that's just kind of a testimony to how warped the system in my own mind had become. Again, it's not a comparison game. There's no judgment. If you use more products or less products, I'm not trying to say that that's better or worse, right? There may be certain metrics in which it is arguably better or worse, right? Like, we don't want to use more plastic, whatever. Like, I am on that journey myself as well of trying to minimize plastic consumption. But this is the point of this observation here, is not to focus on the judgment of, ooh, who uses the most products or the least products, but it's more the correlation between what you buy versus what you use. And what you buy has to match what you actually use. But the problem is it's way too easy to slip up with especially things like makeup and beauty, because these things feel like small purchases. These things seem so attractive, and with something like eyeshadow or lipstick, you know, can provide more of a dramatic result for relatively low investment, right? Some of these things might cost as little as $5, sometimes even less, but, you know, $5, $10, $20 for a lipstick, and you suddenly feel like you have a dramatically different look. Sometimes you can even afford a luxury version of this product. You'll hear influencers talking about designer brands of makeup, and these things kind of seem within the realms of accessibility as far as not being too detrimental for somebody's budget, not taking up a lot of space, not having a visible, huge impact on anything in a negative way. And these kinds of small products do seem to fit the criteria for a little treat, although, you know, having a little treat in the form of consuming something is not necessarily the right mentality. But in the case of, let's say you have a birthday or Christmas, it seems like a makeup product would be an okay kind of exception, or at least it did to me back in January. It was like, this seems like a relatively inconsequential thing to have as a birthday gift. And so I did make that birthday loophole for a couple of makeup things that I just wanted at the time, if I wanted any. And the loophole then turned into kind of a shopping relapse, which is not necessarily, if it was confined to 1 or 2 makeup products, it might be a little bit different as far as the general shopping habit. But in terms of the discussion in this video, buying 1 or 2 products that you may actually not use, if you don't have a track record of actually using them, if you don't anticipate them ending up in the empties video of next year, for example, if you don't actually see yourself using the product to completion and have reasonable evidence that you will do that, it's still probably not a wise thing to do. It's definitely not a conscious thing to do, right? Even if you just have that loophole for 1 or 2 things to treat yourself, or because you want them, or because it's, let's just say they are inexpensive products and you have a $10 budget and you spend it on a couple of makeup things, and that's kind of just your way of picking yourself up or celebrating yourself on a special day. I want to get out of this mentality of consumerism being the way to celebrate oneself, and keeping that association much closer of, if I buy it, it has to be because I'm going to use it, and not for any other reason. Not for the pick-me-up, not for the birthday treat, not for anything I saw influenced online and the things I think the product will bring me, which I'm going to be talking about in the next video. I think I already said on this channel at one point that makeup is something that for me is more fun to buy than to actually use and to wear sometimes. And I have been kind of trying to change that this past month or these past few weeks by consciously using everything I have in my makeup collection and kind of doing another kind of gentle declutter. I didn't film the actual declutter process because I didn't want to elevate so many products in that way. I did one last year, and I thought about actually asking if you all wanted to see kind of the same video, but again, for this year. I did kind of compromise in that I did the declutter privately, right? I didn't talk about my justifications or the reasons I kept something versus not, but I did take pictures of the before and afters, right? So I might kind of show some of these here and show some of the products I decluttered. So I did the categories. I had my face products and what I kept versus decluttered. I had my eye products and what I kept versus decluttered, and my lip products. And again, keep versus declutter. And the things that I wasn't sure about, I just put in a holding box. If I miss them and reach for them again, I can add them back to my collection. There was also a selection of kind of use it or lose it products, where it's like, if I don't actually use this, then I probably should not have it. And there have already been products that have been in that kind of use it or lose it section that have ended up being decluttered. And I definitely don't value wearing makeup enough to wear it at home when nobody's watching. So, there's that I already know about myself, right? It's definitely only for being seen rather than for myself as far as an artistic look. When I was younger and had more time, it might have been more the case where I would have just done a makeup look just for fun for myself. But I'm at a different stage of life now, and that is totally okay. And it's not to say that I will never go back to the other stage. I do feel like it's more unlikely that I would go completely back, especially given some of the other goals that have come into my life now of minimizing plastic use, minimizing use of just substances that aren't totally necessary. Not because of fear of chemicals per se, but just because if I don't need it, why use it? Again, I'm not preaching that you should not use makeup or advocating that it's better to not, but I'm just saying that for me personally, I am going to be interacting with it in a much more utilitarian way going forward. And it's not to say that utilitarian cannot be fun, right? When I am doing a makeup look already, I'm going out, I'm going to perform, then sure, I can break out the blue eyeliner and the sparkly eyeshadow, right? Like, I'm not opposed to having fun makeup looks, right? I'm not saying it has to be minimal and utilitarian in terms of the actual use of the products, even for me. But I am saying that in terms of wanting and purchasing, it has to match what I will actually use and use regularly. And I know that this should not be a revolutionary concept, but when you see so many influencer examples, the makeup collections, the makeup vanities, the drawers, even from non-makeup influencers, oftentimes you will see a makeup declutter or a makeup storage solution or some kind of indication that a lot of these people have more makeup than a single person could ever use up within the time that it would expire. And so just being exposed to this constantly, or, the more time you're online and the more you kind of engage with that kind of content, the more you will be exposed to it, the more you can kind of develop these ideas that it's okay to have more than just a small collection of what you actually need and use. And again, I'm not saying that it's not okay, but I am saying that it's not what I want to do anymore. So anyway, I have eliminated that exception clause. There will be no makeup purchased obligatorily for Christmas as a gift, or just, not even obligatorily, but like that's not an exception that I have anymore. There will be no justification loophole for consumption of makeup that I don't really need just because of a holiday season or even a sale season that might be going on. Part of this is to get to the point where it doesn't even show up as a blip on my radar as something to want. Because if it's not something that I'll use, then there's no point in wanting it. And so if I don't want it, there won't actually be any impulse to fight as far as not buying it. So it's not even in terms of going hard here. This is not, kind of brings me ideas of stoicism, right? And how, you have the most power if you are less attached to things or whatever. And, that's not what this is, but I guess it kind of is what this is. But it's not presented in the same way, if that makes sense. Like, it's not, I'm not trying to detach in the name of protecting myself or anything. But if I can really just appreciate the use value and use that to guide my purchasing, and therefore reshape my wants to fall in line with my use value. And again, it doesn't have to not be fun either, but it's just kind of a reframing that is hopefully something that's obvious for most people out there. I hope I get a lot of comments on this video being like, oh, you're insane. Like, how did you ever think that? Yeah, duh. Like, makeup that you buy has to be used. Like, I hope that's where you all are at. I hope this is a video where you roast me hard in the comments. I may not reply to all of them, but, go ahead and roast me. But I would suspect that somebody out there, maybe more than one person out there, probably has this feeling in, if it's not makeup or beauty, some category of possible consumption. And so that's why I'm making this series, right, of having these stupid realizations of the things that you buy, the things that you want, the things that you spend time curating need to be things that you actually use, as silly as that sounds. And having it as an option in your closet or in your drawer doesn't always count as using it. If it doesn't actually get taken out and regularly used, regularly presented on you to the world, I don't think that counts as using it either. And finally, a bit of a small tangent, but I'm also in this phase where I am noticing, and again, I've kind of been in and out of this phase in my makeup wearing life, but I have been feeling much more of the paradox now between wearing things like skin products and eye products and whatever. And, sometimes you'll put on a skin evening product to cover up an uneven skin tone, right? But then sometimes putting more things on your skin will cause more unevenness, more breakouts, more, whatever it is. And so, I'm personally at a juncture where I'm kind of trying to minimize the substances that I put on, the parts of my body that I would cover the things that substances sometimes bring out, right? If I'm going to be wearing a foundation that's going to break me out to cover up the breakouts, then maybe I just remove the foundation and deal with the breakouts until they subside. And I know it's not like that for everybody. I definitely have hormonal acne, and so it's not always a case of products I put on my face causing it, and sometimes I do still want coverage for things like that, especially if I'm going to be playing a show and people are going to be not watching me per se, but I will be on a stage where people could see me, and I want to look like I've put care into my appearance. And the way society perceives care in your appearance a lot in this day and age for a young female is through wearing makeup, and I'm okay with playing that game for now. I'm not here to be subversive in every aspect of my life all the time, every time. But, I am kind of having points of reckoning where sometimes the question is not which version of this should I buy, but do I even need this in the first place? And I'm much more willing to say, maybe I just don't need it than I used to be. Maybe I should be focusing on things like diet and exercise and getting enough sleep as well as I'm able to, rather than focusing on products to kind of cure the problems that arise from not taking care of those kind of building blocks of my existence. So anyway, new rules for makeup. It's just replacements only. Strict replacements where I use something up and get the identical product, if not the exact same brand, but just the same product that I already know works for me in a version. One of the brands that I've used before, right? Like I'm not experimenting, I'm not trying things, not taking recommendations. As much as I appreciate it and enjoy the experience of interacting with people based on recommendations, I will not be doing that for makeup for the rest of this year, at least. I certainly can wait for another 11 months or whatever before acting on recommendations. Unless it's, no, not unless. There's no exceptions. I'm catching myself there. There's no unless. I have everything I need. I can replace things on a one-in, use it up, bring one in basis with products that I already know work for me, and that's good enough for this year. No backups either. I would rather go without something for a few days than have a stash of products that I have purchased at some point waiting to be opened and used, at least for now. I will not be purchasing things on sale to be backups either. That has been an excuse to buy too much in the past, to grapple with that now, at least during this no-buy year. And saving a few dollars, because the sales will never be good enough, especially on makeup and beauty products. It's never going to be a case of saving $20 or $50 on something. It's probably going to be a case of saving $2 or $3 in order to get a backup on sale and have 2 or 3 of them in my drawer instead of just buying them one at a time. And so it's really not worth it for me right now. That's not to devalue the $2 or $3, right? Like I'm not saying that money is not money and that we shouldn't be saving everything we can. I'm not saying that you should not be shopping like this. I'm just saying that you will not be seeing me shop like this year. I can live without any makeup product for a few days. It's not keeping me alive. And so, that's going to be the new approach, at least for the remainder of No Buy 2025. The other thing that struck me as I was doing these kind of final declutters as far as the products that I don't use enough to have is that there's almost no recourse for the plastic waste, right? Like if you have a makeup product, you can't really resell that. Or, in some cases you can, but in a lot of cases you have a somewhat used makeup product and it's not a designer thing, it's not something that can be sanitized, it's not something that can even really be recycled. You can empty it, you can take it to the TerraCycle at Ulta or whatever, but, does that really work? Hopefully it does, but I feel like that's kind of a last resort case that we should not be using to just dump off products that we purchased and didn't actually end up using, if that makes sense. And again, this is very much my reflection, is how I want to operate. I'm not saying you need to do this, but I really feel like there's almost no recourse for a makeup mistake. You just kind of eat the cost of the product and have this little piece of plastic waste. And I just am increasingly uncomfortable with that. And even in the best case scenario, you buy a product, you use it all up, you still have this waste. And I would love to find more low waste alternatives as far as maybe going plastic free. Or, again, the easiest way to not have the plastic waste is to not use the product. And so minimizing what products I use and kind of get joy out of using. It's not saying that I'm going to, if I get joy out of using something, I'm going to stop getting that joy by not using it. But I can really evaluate what brings me joy as far as what products that I actually appreciate having versus the ones that I could live without and probably not even really notice or care. It was more the experience of buying that product that was impactful and meaningful and exciting than the actual using and having that product in my collection. And I guess makeup and beauty products really do feel kind of disposable in that way because you use them up, but you still have that object of trash in a way that things like clothing and books do not, right? Clothing and books can get a second life, and you know this, and you can responsibly rehome things and donate things to causes that actually do directly impact people that need these things. But again, makeup is a consumable, a disposable, and I just really want to be more responsible about my consuming and disposing of these things. Part of what I've been doing in the last few weeks and continuing in March is making a point to use everything that I have and to really evaluate whether I need to repurchase any product in that category again, or how many of this kind of product that I need. I'm already experiencing that probably one eyeshadow palette would have been enough, and I currently have 3 that I'm keeping, and I've decluttered another 2. And so I had 5 of this product where 1 would do. And I'm also getting to the point where perhaps 1 eyeshadow palette is enough to the point that I don't need any kind of cream products or liquid eyeshadow products. With eyeliner, I guess I'm getting to the point where maybe I only want to wear liquid eyeliner and not have pencil. And, I'm not getting rid of all of the products that I'm not 100% sure about, right? If I can use it up, that's better than just decluttering without using it. But the point is, I'm doing a conscious evaluation by using what I have this month. And maybe that's something that you want to join me in. I would love to have more people on board and sharing their stories and journeys here. I will probably do an update in April as far as what I learned, how I feel, using all the things I have, the things that give me the most joy, the things that provide the most impact as far as, wow, I would never want to not have this, that kind of feeling. And, ooh, I feel really kind of happy and elevated and beautiful or whatever, like I get joy from it. And whether these are all kind of public perception judgments, I'm not going to focus too hard on that all the time. But yeah, let me know if you want to join me in kind of not a project pan, but a project use all the stuff you have and evaluate it in March, and we can reconvene in April. Hopefully that sounds good. The other way that I'm approaching this is deciding how much I need before I confront my collection. So I've already kind of done this, but I went through my mental list of things that I need, right, or things that I think I need, and kind of made a physical list of how many products is probably appropriate for that category, separate from my actual collection, right? And so I ended up with a list of something like 30 to 35 products. This list included things like 1 mascara, 1 liquid eyeliner, 1 pencil eyeliner, no more than 3 cream eyeshadows, and no more than 3 palettes total. But I actually think that that should actually be 1 palette total. So again, 30 to 35 products. And again, kind of reevaluating cream eyeshadow already through using what I have. Foundation, I just need 1 of those. Likewise, 1 concealer, 1 highlighter. Do I even need bronzer? I don't know. 1 blush, maybe 1 powder or 1 cream, maybe 2. Lipstick is a tricky category because I do kind of like to have more options for a product like that, whereas I don't really need options for foundation, concealer, mascara, eyeliner, if you see what I mean. And so I have no more than 10 lipsticks on this list, and maybe 3 options of reds, 3 different pinks or berries, a brown or a nude. And your list might look drastically different from mine, but the point of the exercise is to make the list kind of separate from all the products. And what do you think you actually need based on how much you use makeup? Likewise, lip gloss is kind of a category with a higher amount of products since I carry some of these with me as far as lip hydration. But again, I have maybe 5 total is my goal long term, a couple in the bathroom, a couple in my purses, 1 on my nightstand, in maybe kind of subtly different colors. 1 lip liner, again, I don't need options for that. And eyebrows, do I even need a product for those? Or do I, if I continue to keep doing eyebrow makeup, I just need 1 kind of filling product and 1 setting product. And so, the total is a maximum of 35 products, but it will be no more than that. And the number will probably go down as I continue to use what I have and ascertain what I actually enjoy using. Need to use is what I was going to say, but what I actually get value from using in my day-to-day makeup wearing life. So yeah, I know I can do better than 35 products, but it is a start. And I certainly had more than 35 products when I started. And I did end with 35 products after my declutters. And I think after my first couple of weeks of use, I have even pared down a couple more from there. So again, I'll share the final details in April. Maybe if I get feedback that you want to see the products and me interacting with them, I can do that in April's video too. We'll see. The last point that I realized throughout this kind of use experiment is that I have so many different options for lip gloss and lipstick, but I only have 1 Viola mute and 1 set of earplugs. And these are things that I use every time I go to work. And if I misplace it, or when I leave my earplugs in my pocket at home, I feel the loss of them, right? I feel like that would be a product that makes a lot more sense to have 2 or 3 of, so that I can have 1 in this bag, 1 in this pocket, 1 in this Viola case or whatever. And for whatever reason, because it's a product that I actually need for utilitarian purposes, it's not as fun to shop for, to buy, to curate, or whatever. For some people it might not be like that. I'm just saying for me, why do I not have multiples of the products that I actually use and need? And why am I willing to kind of, I guess, in some ways I'm willing to take care of them and to really make sure that they're in their place. And regarding a lip gloss or something, I would still rather have 5 of them so that I can have 1 everywhere, rather than kind of take care of 1 or just You know, if I'm at home, I could probably just go to the bathroom every time I want to have a lip gloss and apply it there and go on with my day. Like, my house isn't that big, so I can maybe reevaluate how many of these things that I need as well in the future. So that's the start. That's the start of this makeup project, of only buying what I'm actually going to use, what I actually need, and at least as far as Project No Buy goes, not really buying anything at all aside from the legitimate replacements. All right, would love to hear from you about your interactions with makeup and beauty, and I will say bye for now and see you in the next one.